good news. He wanted me to announce that they are hosting Cindy's retirement party out here in the fellowship hall on the 31st, which is Saturday. Okay, so would have been 2 weeks from yesterday, out here in the fellowship hall, Cindy's retirement party from 12 to 3. He said you don't have to bring anything, don't worry about food, gifts, just show up and basically enjoy her retirement party. So like I said, that'd be 2 weeks from yesterday on the 31st. So as I begin today, Pastor, I have to admit a little bit. I was, yesterday, last week you were preaching out of Joshua chapter 1. And while we were looking at Joshua chapter 1, my mind just started kind of going across the page a little bit. And, oh, well, that's an interesting story. And I started divulging into Joshua chapter 2. And when you asked me if I could step in, it's like, oh, well, I know where I'm going. So today, like I said, I always say this, it's no big deal. Basically, Pastor talked a few weeks ago about the library, talking about the library and the poetry and the law, and I'm definitely the history part. I'm not much into the philosophy, I'm not much into the theories, and if I speak, it's pretty much all action history. I like to go into the Word, I guess, and see what's the hidden things behind it a little bit. Because there's always, the Bible always makes it kind of straightforward. This happened, and this happened, and this happened. Sometimes I like to just go back and fill in the blanks, at least in my own mind, I guess. So today I'm going to do that. It's kind of a straightforward. This would be more of a Bible study than a sermon per se, because I don't have a lot of back and forth and this and this and this and this. I just want to look at the story of Rahab, which was in Joshua chapter 2. And we're going to be all the way through Joshua chapter 2, and then a little bit in Joshua chapter 6. So I'm not going to have anything up on the screen, because if you have your Bibles, or if you have a a phone, you ought to be able to just follow that, because we're starting in verse 1, and we're going down the chain. And like I said, this is basically just more of a Bible study, so to speak, of what I see, hidden things that were in there. So before I begin with Rahab, just a couple of things I wanted to, just kind of. The story of Rahab, I don't think I've ever spoken, normally, I don't think it's the first time I've ever spoken about a female. It's always male-driven, so this is kind of a unique thing, that this is the first sermon I've given where a female was the main character. But as I started looking at her, just a couple points before we get going into the Word. There's definitely some elements of Passover in this, that it would make sense that, these are the children of Israel who came out of Egypt, or at least Joshua did, that they would know about the plague. So there's definitely an element of Passover. Another thing I wanted to note today about the story of Rahab is that she had to go against what was popular. And when we get to that point, I want you to notice that she had to, the old thing about one stood against many. This is what Rahab, a female in those days who wasn't in a position of authority or respectability in that perspective, but she went against what was popular when it probably could have suited her to do just the opposite. One other thing to notice about Rahab when we get into it, be ready, stay ready. The story of Rahab, while it's talking about it's an adventure story, it's a spy story, it's, repelling off the side and the buildings and battles and blood and gore and everything else, but it's also a salvation message. And the story of Rahab applies to us today just as directly as it did to Joshua and the spies in Jericho. And the last thing I want, before we get into the Word here, we know the profession that Rahab had. For our purposes today, we're going to call her a hotel director. We know what the Bible says and we know what she was, but for our purposes today, We're just going to call her a hotel director in charge of checking in guests and checking out guests. We'll take some literary freedom with that and take it from there. So Joshua chapter 2, verse 1. And like I said, I'm not going to have anything on the screen. Basically, when we get through chapter 2, we're almost done. We'll know how much farther we got to go when we get to the end of the chapter. But I'm just going to stop as things that jumped out to me. I want to stop and look at them. So in Joshua chapter 2, beginning in verse 1, now Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out 2 men from Acacia Grove to spy secretly, saying, "Go view the land, especially to Jericho." So they went and came into the house of a hotel director named Rahab, and they lodged there. So we already got action going on in our story already. Joshua says, I need 2 fellas. You're going to go be undercover spies. You're going to be James Bond, so to speak. You're going to be the CIA infiltrating. You got to sneak into the city, find out everything about the city, and then come back here and tell me what you found. And he sends 2 young men and did a little research about how they had to cross the Jordan. And just getting there, it wasn't like they just drove up to the front door and walked in and checked in the room. There was some work and effort just to get to Jericho. But it made sense that they would be visiting Rahab. They are undercover spies. 2 young men out of town, coming in, needing a place to stay. It wouldn't be that unusual to go visit this particular kind of hotel. I know it's weird, but I just don't want to. I want to keep it as a hotel, not the other. So their plan made sense. But in verse 2, we already see that the plan's blown up. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country." What gave the men away? Was it their dialect? Did they speak a little differently? Was it the clothes that they had on? Were they asking the wrong questions? Were they asking too many funny questions that drew attention to themselves? While they were undercover spies, so to speak, their cover was quickly blown. Now, when we go to work and we go to school, and I do hope our 2 ladies in the back look at me, at least make eye contact with me from time to time, because a lot of this will apply to young'uns. I've heard it said before, Jesus doesn't have any undercover Christians. When we go to work and when we go to school, we shouldn't blend in so perfectly that no one could ever pick us as being different. These men, for whatever reason, and I'm guessing this was pretty quickly, people said there's something different about these guys, and we're going to go tell the king. Their cover was blown immediately that these are the children of Israel. They didn't assimilate. They didn't blend in for weeks on end. It was almost immediately, these are the children of God. Now, I'm not saying we can, if you can go to work and you have to do it the right way. You can't, if you're turn and burn every time, nobody's going to want to talk to you and your influence is nothing. But for me, it's sad to say, simplest way to get influence at work, right, for where I work, is simply don't cuss. By simply you can stand out as being different just by not using bad language. Just that simple of a thing. The simplest, and I don't evangelize when I'm at work, but I've noticed that the simplest things, and I like to make the joke, I've made this joke for years, that I've never seen a full Colts game and I always tell it the same way, that I come home from church, eat lunch, watch the first half, then go take a nap. The point being, it's so easy to slip in, went to church, or just, I don't stand and preach the gospel, but just say, went to church. We had a Christmas Eve service. We, just mentioning, hey, went to church. Let them people know there's something different. It's funny because one of the guys, he calls me Trietsch the Preach. He thinks it's the funniest thing that I'm like, Josh, I am not the preacher. But, it is. And everybody can do it in their own way. At school, it should be the same way. If our kids shouldn't blend in so well and do the same everything they do, there should be something that says they're a little bit different. Maybe it is the clothes they wear. Maybe it's the talk. Maybe it's just showing compassion. Maybe it's just, there should be something that says, hey, they're a little bit different. They're not like everybody else. Now Rahab here, it's about to turn on Rahab. We're only in verse 2. And things are already taking a turn for Rahab here. She's been put in a position that she did not ask for. What's about to happen to her, or could potentially happen to her, was something she did not ask for, other than having her hotel job. She did nothing to bring this upon herself, but she's about to be caught in the middle of something. And what she doesn't realize is that this catastrophe that's potentially in the middle of is the opportunity that God has given her. Why it could be seen as, oh, why is this happening to me? Why am I in the middle of this? This is the thing that God has ordained for you to get out of your situation. God has done this for you, and though it may look like at the beginning that this is a horrible catastrophe, God's going to use what's about to happen to Rahab for her benefit and everybody around her. Amen. So, well, let's look what it is. Verse 3. And you'll notice in this story here, before I go, in chapter 2, they repeat themselves a lot. There's a whole lot of this verse says exactly what this verse says, and this verse says it's just going to happen. And before I go in a little bit further, sometimes it seems like when I read chapter 2, it's like things didn't quite go in order. It's like it's a jigsaw puzzle that things are kind of put in the wrong order. But we're not going to let that get to us. Verse 3, so the king of Jericho sent men to Rahab. So here's this lady minding her own business. Yes, and it's soldiers outside. All she did was let in a couple of guests into her hotel room, and now there's soldiers calling her out saying, we have a message from the king. Things have stepped up for Rahab very quickly. And the men's message is very clear. Bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search all the country. Verse 4, and the woman, being Rahab, took the 2 men and hid them. So she said, yes, the men came to me, but I do not know where they were from. So what I see in this, and it kind of, looking on the surface, is like she wouldn't go hide them after the soldiers come to the door, but that's no big deal. But by the time the men, the 2 spies from Joshua, come into her house, there's conversations taking place. She didn't just decide, oh, I'm going to run these guys up on the roof. There was conversations taking place. She had to have let them know that your cover is blown, and they had to convince her of who they are and what they stood for. So when the men knock on the door, Rahab's already got a plan. But Rahab, she's in one of 3 positions right now. Now, this is a strange thing to look at it. Her life is basically potentially in danger. She's sitting on an opportunity, or C, other. Because the men have said, send the men out. This isn't an option. This isn't a suggestion. This isn't we have 30 days to comply. The men from the king, the soldiers, say, send them out now. If Rahab lies to the soldiers and gets caught, she's dead. Because you're disobeying the king. You're disobeying the soldier. You're disobeying the king. They say do it. You say nuh-uh. You're caught. She's dead. But she's also in danger from the two spies. They are spies. Technically they are a foreign enemy. She could get in the middle of a hostage situation, and who knows? They could kill. They could hold her at knife point and say, "Take another step, and we'll kill her." So she was her life was in danger. She did nothing. She did nothing but open the door, and suddenly her life is in danger both from the soldiers and from the spies. She also has opportunity. If she chooses to go this route, she might get favor with the king. Because obviously the soldiers will be happy with her, and the king will be happy with her, and maybe Rahab gets a nice little reward for turning in these spies. Who knows? She may leave her current business, and she might get a nice little house in the palace for doing what? For basically, you've stopped a foreign invasion. We're going to reward you with, and we're going to lift you up for stopping this invasion. There's financial gain for Rahab. She could, if she wanted to, she could hold the spies for blackmail. Hey, fellas, guess what? They're coming to get you. Empty your pockets. Empty your pockets, or I yell, here they are, come get them. She has both her life is in danger, but she also has the opportunity for personal gain through this situation. Or C, other. I would say this especially to the young people in here. There is more to life than gold and popularity. Rahab had the opportunity for both. She could put herself in a better position in this world, maybe put a little gold coins in her pocket. But Rahab understands that there's more to this life, there's more to this world than gold and popularity. We're going to see in the moment she chose C. But it's amazing, like I said, she didn't plan this. She didn't wake up that morning saying that, hey, there's going to be some spies coming. I've got a reservation for some spies who are coming in, and today my life is going to change. All this is happening to Rahab in a very short period. She could die in a very short period. She could make some quick cash in a very short period. Or there's C. It's going to happen in a very short period. Verse 5. I'm going to go back to 4. And the woman took the two men and hid them. So she said, yes, talking back to the soldiers, the men came to me, but I do not know where they were from. And it happened as the gate was being shut, when it was dark, that the men went out. Where the men went, I don't know. Pursue them, go, away, run quickly, that you may overtake them. Verse 6, but she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid under the roof. And the men pursued them by the roads to Jordan and by fords, not by Chevy, but to the fords. And as soon as those who had pursued them had gone out, they shut the gate. So she tells a lie. Rahab decides to lie to the king to protect the two spies. Now you back this up for a second. We're obviously rooting for the children of Israel. We're obviously rooting for Joshua. Rahab lives in Jericho. Her neighbors live in Jericho. Her friends all live in Jericho. Her clients mostly live in Jericho. And Rahab is siding with the outsiders. She's turning against her king and her king's orders in order to protect the spies from Joshua. You talk about taking a stand. If you feel like you're the only one at work that goes to church, if you feel like you're the only one in the entire school who loves Jesus, that's how Rahab's feeling right now. She's got to make a choice, a very quick choice, a quick choice that she did not think she was going to have to make this morning, a quick choice that she didn't ask to have to make. Am I going to stand with the outside spies, or am I going to stand with my king? Will I follow the gold and the popularity, or will I follow God? Now, before they lay down, verse 8, she came up to them on the roof. And we started verse 9, and this is an amazing observation by Rahab, but it's also a very, very sad commentary, not only on Jericho, but this world today. Verse 9, Rahab begins to say why she did what she has done. Now, before we read that, it's an interesting dynamic. The soldiers are gone, so that somewhat immediate threat has passed. But we still have this strange power dynamic here. That in the short term, the spies are reliant upon Rahab. In the short term, Rahab has power over these spies because all she has to do is scream anything and their cover is blown and they're probably dead. In the long term, the children of Israel, have the power over Rahab. Remember I talked about the short-term goal, in the short term, Rahab still has the power over the spies, but Rahab understands, I'm playing the long game here. Verse 9, and she said to the men, I know. Doesn't matter what everybody says in the city. Doesn't matter how many false gods we're preaching that are getting sacrificed right now. It doesn't matter how many idols are set up in the courtyard. I know. I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that the terror of you, the children of Israel, has fallen on us, and all the inhabitants of the land that are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea. And by connection, they also know about the plagues. If they know about the Red Sea, they know about the plagues. For you, when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Ammonites, who were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. Verse 11, as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you. For the Lord your God, He is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. Rahab makes the declaration that I have seen and we have heard who God is, and we recognize He is the God in heaven and the God in earth. The great thing, Rahab sees this and acknowledges this and understands who she is in this great game, so to speak. And she says, I want to get on the winning team. But the problem is, this sad thing is, and if you want to look at today's society, why is this a horribly sad statement? Because look at verse 11. I will just go right there. Our hearts melted. There's nor courage in here or anyone, because we've heard these things and we know these things. All of Jericho knows that God is God and how powerful He is and what He's done to everybody else. And as Rahab with her own mouth says, He is the God in heaven and the God beneath. But what you don't hear them say is, we're going to worship Him. They know this, but they will not turn to Him. They're still going to fight Him. They're still going to fight the children of Israel with their walls and their chariots and all that. Rahab says, we know God is God. But it's still not enough. It's still not. We've seen, we've heard. We know that Og has been wiped off. Whoever Og is. We know all this, but we're still not going to turn from our idols. We know all this, but we're still going to serve our false gods. We know all this, but it's not enough to melt our hearts are melted in fear, but their hearts aren't melted to turn to him. And what a sad to acknowledge. They acknowledge who God is with their words and their eyes, but not their mouths. That's where Jericho is. But Rahab, in the midst of all this, says, but I know. I know. And she's making a deal. Now, like I said, when she's about to make this deal, she still holds the power. I know this is a weird, nobody's ever probably looked at the way I will look at these weird things. When she's about to make this deal, she still technically holds the power over these men. Verse 12, now therefore I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you will also show kindness. This is option C. She didn't want gold. She didn't want power. She didn't want to move into the king's throne, because if she moves into the palace, yeah, she lives good for a day or a week or a month or a year, but it's short term. Whatever she gains by turning on the spies, it is a short term and then it's gone. She chooses option C. Now therefore I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you will also show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token. And spare my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. Rahab's, again, I'll repeat it for the 8th time. Rahab's not looking to build herself up. She's not looking to enhance her bank account. She's not looking to enhance her position of influence in the community. She says, I'm worried about my mother and my father and my brothers and my sisters, and you can have all the gold, and all that is meaningless if they're dead. Unless we live, all everything else is useless. And I know who you serve, and because I know who you serve, I know that your God can do this for me. Again, I mean, what do we chase? What do we chase in life? Let me see where I'm at. I got to make sure. Okay, verse 14. So the men answered her. Now it's interesting. These two spies, like I said, who technically she still holds power over them, are speaking for Joshua, and they're speaking for God himself. That's kind of a massive responsibility all of a sudden. These two spies that just the day before Joshua says, hey, we need 2 suckers to go be undercover agents. Now they're making deals in the name of God himself. And the men answered, our lives for yours. Was I miss something here? No. If none of you tell this business of ours, and it shall be, this is a key part here, and it shall be when the Lord has given us the land that we will deal kindly and truly with you. Now I'm going to date myself here for a moment. Ooh. I'm not going to get done by 12. That's all right. How do you remember Peanuts, Charlie Brown, the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown? There's the scene in there where Linus is out there with, what's Charlie Brown's sister, the blonde girl, Sally. And Linus makes the mistake of talking about the Great Pumpkin, and he says, if he comes. And then he realizes, good grief. And then he yells out to Sally, I mean when he comes. And when I read this verse, I kind of thought that I had visions of that. Yes, think of that what you will. I'll say it was God divine, but you think of it what you will. The men didn't say, if we get around to it. The men didn't say, if we take a vote. The men didn't say, well, we may go into some delegations here and we'll see what did the men tell her? So it shall be when the Lord has given us the land. We're coming. We're coming. It's not debatable. It's just a matter of when. But guess what? We are coming. And we sit here today. We don't know how long it'll be before Jesus comes, but he is coming. It's not a matter of if. It's not a question of, well, if the world allows it. He is coming. The men said, we are coming to take this city. You are correct, Rahab. We are going to do this. And people can say Jesus hasn't come. Blah, 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 blah. Jesus says, I'm coming. He is coming. And there wasn't an if. There wasn't a doubt. They told her, we are coming. Rest assured, be no doubt, be no question. Jesus says, I'm coming back. He's coming back. Verse 15. And this is where it kind of jumps off. I don't want to get, but just when I read these next few sentences, like, well, why did she let him down? Were they like yelling at each other over the what? Well, that's not very spy-like. So I think this is kind of a verse out of order. And then she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall, and she dwelt on the wall. And she said to them, get to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you. Hide there 3 days until the pursuers have returned. Afterwards, you may go your way. And the lawyers start to come into the scene here a little bit, because they keep repeating themselves over and over. So the men said to her, we will be blameless of this oath of yours, which you have made us swear, unless we come back into the land. You bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down. And we're going to get back to that in just a second. Unless you bring your father and bring your mother and your brothers and all the father's house and all your father's household to your own home. So be it that whoever goes outside the door of your house in the street, the blood will be on his own hand, and we will be guiltless. And whoever is with you in the house, his blood shall be on your head. And whoever is with you in the house, his blood shall be on our head, if a hand is laid upon him. And if you tell this business of ours, then we will be free from your oath which you made us swear. Then she said, according to your words, so be it. And she went down, and she sent them away, and they departed. Verse 21. And she bound the scarlet cord in the window. So they do their lawyerese. They make sure the terms of the contract are very clear. They make it very clear. They shake hands, sign it, date it, initial it, and off they go. But before they go, they give a cord. They put the scarlet cord. The scarlet cord to wrap around, to indicate to us where you're at. Sealed, so to speak. And I want you to notice that Rahab doesn't wait. She doesn't wait for a later time. She does it immediately. Immediately. She has two things that could possibly save her and save her family. A scarlet cord and the word of spies. There's something here I'm missing. Rahab knows that the children of Israel are coming. She knows when the city is going to be taken. She does not know when. She has no idea when they're coming back. She doesn't wait. She doesn't wait to put the cord around the window to say, here I am. She doesn't delay. She does it immediately. Oh, there was something I just had. I can't remember what it was. Oh, give me a minute. I had something I was supposed to. Oh, I'm going to go ahead. If I come back to it, it was something good and I forgot it. But we know boy, I had it. I lost it. I'm sorry. If I come back to it, allow me to jump back. Verse 22, and they departed and went to the mountain and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers returned. And the pursuers sought them all along the way, but she did not find them. And the two men descended from the mountain, crossed over, and they came to Joshua the son of Nun and told him all that had befallen them. And they said to Joshua, surely the Lord has delivered all the lands into our hand. For indeed all the inhabitants of the country are faint-hearted because of us. And before we get to the end of this story, we know how it plays out. Why was it important to tie that cord immediately? Why wait? Why do it immediately? Because we know that the children are going to march 6 days one time around. And each time they pass, they're going to pass around this big city with the big walls and everything. And what are they seeing every time for 6 times around that city? They're seeing that cord. They're seeing that reminder that Rahab didn't wait. She didn't wait till the appropriate time. She didn't wait to say, I'll do it later. She didn't say, well, we got plenty of time to tie this thing up. Why do it right now? Because if you tie it right now, that's what I was going to get to. If she ties it immediately, guess what? It might draw attention. People may ask, why do you have this cord around your heart, so to speak? People may ask questions of you. Why have you done this thing? She could wait till the last minute. She could hope that she could catch him at the right time. And if something would happen that she wouldn't be there when the walls fell, everything she had bet, all this deal was done, and her family would die. Her family would die because she didn't take the time to tie a cord around the window. Now, maybe it's not that way. I mean, that's kind of a severe thing to think that her father could die if she doesn't tie a rope. And if I had time, we could probably go that direction about our lives being the hope for our family members and such. But by tying this cord early, she risked drawing attention. The soldiers were there once. The soldiers could come back and say, what does this mean? This wasn't here yesterday. What's so different that you decided to do this? But every time those men, 6 times, they marched around, and 6 times, you could almost see the spies. Hey, that's the place right there. That's where we were. Joshua, see, and for 6 days, that cord was a reminder to Joshua that I've got a promise that we've got to keep. That we're going to rescue Rahab, and that's a reminder of the promise. And you can almost think of it as almost like the promise to Jesus, that when we and again, the rope was red, scarlet. The blood of Christ, which sets us free, is the same red that was going to set Rahab free. And if we bind our hearts with that blood of Jesus, he sees that. And it's a constant reminder. But there's another part here. And it's kind of I was thinking of when Naaman, when he was told to dip 7 times. Well, 6 times nothing happened. And the discouragement that might come. Rahab makes the deal. She ties the cord. The spies have said, you will be saved. She's told her family, you got to get in the house. So you imagine the first time when the children of Israel show up, boom, they're all running because, hey, this is happening. We got to get in here now. And they go home. Well, that was a big nothing. The second day, they're here. Let's go, get in the house. Well, by the sixth day, Jesus hasn't returned yet. How urgent is it for me to get into the house? I've been waiting, and this thing doesn't happen. And we don't know. I don't think so. But does her brothers complain? Does her sisters complain? Are you sure this is going to happen? I'm tired of having to leave what I'm doing to go run in. God's testing them. Not only Rahab, but also her family. Because if they decide, you know what, you're the boy that cried wolf 6 times, you know what, forget it, I'm not going there the next time. But you had mentioned, which brought to my attention, the parable of the sowers. We always look at it, how the guy that got hired in the morning had to work all day and got the same amount of pay as the guy that got hired 2 hours before quitting time. The reverse of that is also true. When it came time to pay out the day's wages, if you're working from 7 to 4 and you get mad and leave at 3:30, you're not getting paid. The guy who was there at 2 o'clock and stayed till 4, he'll get paid. But if the laborer who put in all the work leaves before pay time, he's not getting his reward either. To a great extent, it didn't matter how many times the 6 days that the family went into the house, were they there on the 7th day? To be faithful not only on day 1, to be faithful not only on day 2 and day 3 and day 4, were they faithful to come into the house under the cover, just like at the Passover? Were they faithful to be inside the house with the door that's marked on day 7? And if I'm Rahab, she's probably getting grief. And she's begging her family, don't go anywhere, don't go anywhere, don't go anywhere. But I want to wrap this up. We flip over to Joshua 6, and we're going to begin in 16. And this is the happily ever after portion. And keep in mind, like I said, when Rahab makes this deal, she has no idea how long this is going to take. If it took a year, that cord was going to be tied around her window for a year. Obviously, we know that the men are got to get back to camp. She's telling them, hide in the mountains for days. They've got to get back to camp. Rahab has no idea when Josh is going to say, let's go. But she's got to be ready, and the cord has got to be there, despite having no idea how long this will take. And on the 7th time it happened, verse 16, that when the priests blew the trumpets, and Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. Now the city shall be doomed by the Lord to destruction, it and all who are in it. But this is Joshua talking. Only Rahab, the hotel director, shall live, she and all who are with her in her house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. The significance of this: Joshua didn't make this deal. Joshua didn't sign this contract, but Joshua saw the cord. He heard the spies, he saw the cord, and Joshua says, we're taking it all but them. The promise was always in front of Joshua. The promise that this woman and her family will be saved never left Joshua's mind. In the midst of ultimate success, and these walls are falling, and the miraculous has happened, Rahab is still on Joshua's mind. Because just as Jesus, we believe that Jesus says, I'm coming back for you and I'm making a place for you. As we put trust in Jesus, Rahab had the trust in Joshua, and Joshua remembered the promise. And marching around, I'm convinced that marching around that city, why did she have to, like I said, could she have waited till, if she knew day 7, to put the cord out? Well, sure she could have, I suppose. But that enforced every day, Joshua, I'm here. Joshua, I'm here. Joshua, I'm here. And Rahab was always in the mind of Joshua during this. With everything else going on, Rahab was always in Joshua's mind. Verse 18, and by all means, and we're going to get down, I'll read it just because it's not going to hurt to read. And you, by all means, abstain from the accursed thing, lest you become accursed when you take the accursed thing and make the camp of Israel a curse and trouble it. We know that happens. But all the silver and gold vessels and bronze, we're getting to work back to Rahab, are consecrated to the Lord, and they shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted when the priest blew the trumpet. And it happened that the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted a great shout, that the walls fell flat. Then the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city. They utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkey, with the edge of the sword. Verse 22, But Joshua had said to the two men who spied out the country, Go into the hotel house, and from there bring out the woman for all that she has, as you swore to her. And the young men, we're getting to the best part, but I got to go back. It's not here, but it's about to be exposed. And the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, her mother, her brothers, and all that she had. So they brought her and her relatives and left them outside the camp. Verse 25, and we're going to double back. Verse 25, And Joshua spared Rahab, her father's household, and all that she had. So she dwells in Israel this day, because she hid the messenger whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Now that's a good ending to the story. But there's one little thing that if you don't look carefully, which I probably missed for years. Where did Rahab dwell? No. Where did she physically dwell? In the wall. But the word says the walls came a-tumbling down. What does that mean? That means in the midst of the destruction of everything else going on, Rahab's house stood. Rahab's house, who was protected by that cord that said, all in your house will be safe. Everyone in this house, as long as you keep the cord wrapped around the house, everyone who's in this house will be safe. And when everything else crashed all around them and there's destruction everywhere, what was the only thing left in Jericho? The house of Rahab that was protected. Everything. She dwelt in the wall. The walls fell, but she was untouched. Now, does that mean that, I'm going to close this up because, as usual, I have no idea how to close. Obviously, there will be times when the walls of Jericho around us are crumbling. Sickness, death, disease, financial problems, you name it, it's going to happen. Everything around Rahab came a-crashing. Every person she ever knew came a-crashing. But her house stood. Not because it was made of a different stone or a different mortar. Her, in the face of utter destruction, her house and all of her family stood.